It's Mrs. Squires, and I wanted to talk to you about how I go ahead and take notes. So, this is my first article that I'm interested in getting research from. And what I do with my articles, as I get them, I give them a number. So, this is my first source that I'm going to work through. So, basically, what I do is I take a fresh note card and I sit down and I start reading. So I'm like, fuel cells produce energy through electrochemical reactions rather than through the process of combustion. So what I do, every note card I have, I put down the source number, which is this is source one. Then I say fuel cells because I'm talking about fuel cells and I want to know how they work. So this is telling me fuel cells make energy by the electrochemical reaction, not through the process of combustion. Now, I want to make sure that I know what the heck combustion is and how it might relate to fuel cells. So I put a little notation in there, make sure I find out exactly what this is. So that's my first note card. It's one idea by itself. Bam, it goes off to the side. Then I keep reading. These cells convert hydrogen into electricity and heat. Fuel cells are sometimes compared to batteries because, like batteries, they have two electrodes, an anode and a cathode. So I go ahead and I read that and I think, oh, wait a second. This is kind of interesting. Fuel says how they work. They're like batteries. So I write sometimes they are called batteries because they are similar in that they are set up to have an electric current flow into and out of it. Okay, I don't need to write all this other stuff in here because it's getting a little technical for me, and I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to be able to replicate it correctly, so I don't record that. I don't add that in. So then I go ahead and I keep reading. But fuel cells are fundamentally different electrical devices from batteries because the latter simply store electrical energy. So then I put this. I'm like, okay, batteries store energy, fuel cells produce or make energy. So that right there is a fundamental difference. So that's basically how I go through and I write each one of my note cards. The next one is fuel cell. How does it work? How is the energy made? Chemical energy converted, changed. But if you notice, I'm not directly copying from here. I'm trying to take the big concepts from what I am reading. So, since this is my first source, I typically have a lot more note cards for my first source. As you can see here, I have a lot of different note cards. As I move on to my second source, which I circle up in the corner, if you look at my note cards for my second source, these are not that many because I already learned about the process in the first one. So I don't have to take note cards on that because I already have that information. I'm looking at my future sources as what am I adding to my store of knowledge? What are they talking about that they didn't talk about in the first source? This one was talking about hydrogen vehicles. They had other information about advantages, and then we were talking about general information. So those were the kinds of things that I was looking for in the second source. That goes the same for every source after that. So here's my third source. You notice my third source also doesn't have a whole lot of note cards because I'm only looking to add information. Here I was able to get some real specific pieces of information like money amounts. It's the same thing when you look at a book, all right? So here's my book source, and this is my fourth source. And I actually used two books. So I make sure that I know which source this is. And here it is right here. This is my fourth source. And so in here, I was just looking, how does it work? Is there anything that I can add to that information that I already have? Disadvantages, if there were any advantages I wanted to record. There we go. So I only have 4 cards. The reason that I like cards, I think, will be very evident when I get into actually showing you how I will go about organizing my research paper to then write it. But I really want you to notice I do not take and fill up my note cards, like just copy stuff out of here. Very rarely will I have a note card that needs to go onto the back. Sometimes I do, but look at this. That's all that I said on this note card. Clean, carbon free, and pollution free. Boom, done. And that's basically how I take notes from my sources.